Good morning, good morning.
We just couldn't have the music going and not get into it.
No, we talked about having a little bit of fun this morning.
Yes, we're having fun. Did y'all come to have fun? Yeah. Okay, let's do it.
We know they came to have fun and be inspired. And Cynt, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Absolutely an honor. And
thanks for the invitation. It's my pleasure.
Well, you have an amazing story, and there's a lot of people in this audience and beyond where your words can help penetrate and inspire their hearts. And even though this is predominantly, obviously, a real estate-focused room, real estate starts with leadership, like a lot of other businesses. So we're going to dive right in. You're originally from Birmingham, Alabama, and then your family moved to California. Some might think you didn't have the easiest of childhoods, but hearing your story, two themes stand out: resilience and community. If you feel comfortable, would you be able to tell us about your upbringings and how those experiences impacted and shaped you?
Yes, I am definitely comfortable. First of all, let me acknowledge all of our Dallas Mavericks wonderful employees who are in the house. Stand up, Dallas Mavericks employees. I love these people so much. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, I have to acknowledge them because that's just, I mean, they take care of me every single day.
Understood.
They take care of me. Yes, so as you said, born in Birmingham, Alabama. If you know your civil rights history, you know that there is a church, the 16th Street Baptist Church, that was bombed in September of 1963, where 4 little girls lost their lives. That happened 4 years after about 4.5 years after my mom and dad left. So that was my mother's church. And so they moved to California when I was a baby because they didn't want their kids actually in everything that was going on in the Jim Crow segregated South. So my dad had a sister who had moved to California. And so they got there, 4 of us on a train, and said, we're going to. And then, of course, I have 2 other sisters and brothers who were born in California. So I was raised in a public housing project. And so some of the things you think about back in the 60s and 70s that you would think happened in a public housing project, some of the bad things, I witnessed a lot of that. We were the victims of domestic violence. When I was 11 years old, I actually saw my father shoot a man in the head. And actually it was in self-defense, but really in defense of me, because I was at home with my mother, my dad, brothers and sisters, and all this commotion broke out at our front door. And at the time, okay, so you're gonna find this hard to believe, so you guys just get the laugh out right now. I was actually a quiet kid, okay, just go ahead. I was a very quiet kid. My mother put 2 books in my hand at an early age. She put a math book in one hand and a Bible in the other, and said, if you keep your head in these 2 books, you'll make it out. Now, of course, as a kid, I don't know what out means, but it meant out of poverty, out of the violence, out of the stuff that we were going through. And so I was in the back room with my math book, my Bible, and all this commotion broke out, but I was a quiet kid, but I was a nosy kid. And so I'd like to know what's going on. I guess I was curious, but I really was nosy. And so I heard all this commotion. I went to the front door, and that's when my father realized that I was no longer in the back room with my 5 brothers and sisters, but in the potential pathway of a bullet. And I can still see it right now. The young man pointed, 17 years old, one of the guys from church, we knew him, a lot of brothers, into a lot of bad stuff, and he pointed the silver pistol down to my father's right side where I was standing. So he had come to our house just being, crazy, just into just bad stuff, harassing my dad. And my dad said he had no intent to shoot him until he realized I was standing on his right side and the young man pointed the pistol to me. And so my father had to shoot back. It wasn't fatal. Fortunately, it was not fatal. The young man lost his eye, but it wasn't fatal. But you can imagine all the stuff that broke out in our neighborhood. And because he had all these brothers, we actually had to be sequestered in the house for safety purposes for quite a few months. But my mother figured out a way for me to get to school because I was in the 7th grade, 11 years old, and I cried because I wanted to go to school. Because somehow I had learned at an early age that education was really my ticket. And not just my ticket, but my refuge on a daily basis. It was the place where, school was the place where I could go and hide and feel free and just be safe. And so my mother figured out a way for this crying kid to get to school. Now, out of the 6 of us, so we still talk about it, I was the only one crying to go to school, okay? Everybody else was good staying home, but I had to get to school. And so my mother had a uniformed police officer take me to school. And so he would come to our house, and his name was Officer Darrell Prater. I just love him so much. He would ask me if I wanted him to ride the bus with me, or if I wanted to go in the police car. So every now and then I said, take me in the police car and put the siren on. He never would put the siren on, but he got me to school every day. And he did exactly what was written on his car. It said to protect and to serve. And that's what he did for us every day. And so then 4 years later, my parents got an ugly, bloody, violent divorce. And so that summer of 1975, so I'm giving you my age. Summer of 1975, we had to be taken away. We were taken away from our house by the police because it wasn't safe for us to be home. And so it was the night of my brother's high school graduation. And so we went straight from his graduation to my sister's apartment for the whole summer because it wasn't safe for us to be at home. My father had beat up my mother right before the graduation. He was coming at us. My mother wiped the blood off everybody and said, we have to go to the graduation because education is everything. I mean, so you will find that theme in my life. Went to the graduation, went to her house, and my mother's prayer, I still have a praying mother. My mother's prayer was that we would make it back home before school started because she wanted the 3 of us who were still at home, she wanted us home when school started. And so a week before school started, the police told us we could go back home. We lived in a 4-bedroom deluxe project unit. There were so many of us, and we went back home, and there was 1 mattress in that unit for me and my younger sister to sleep on. My father had taken everything. And you can imagine, at this point, I'm 15 years old, my sister's 13, my brother's 12. We're just going crazy because all of our stuff is gone. School is getting ready to start in a week. I ran track, so I was sent to sprint. All of my trophies, everything was gone. And you can imagine being a teenager, we were just all up in arms. But my mom just told us to be quiet. And it was as quiet in our house as it is in here right now. She said, everybody be quiet. All I want is peace of mind. God will provide. And we're thinking, okay, well, we need to give him some help because like we need school clothes, where are our trophies? I mean, we're just teenagers, right? And she had me go to school, and I had a silver brace on my nose where my father had broken my nose that summer. And she told us to go to school. And some people gave us some clothes. We went to school, and 3 teachers and a principal saw me with that brace on my nose, embraced me, found out what was going on in our family, knew that, they knew us because I had 2 older sisters and an older brother, but they really got to know what was going on with this. Knew my mother had a desire for her kids to go to college. They embraced me. I ended up, because of these teachers, I ended up graduating at the top of my school district and got 5 full scholarships to the college of my choice. And the rest is history. So I always do this. Do we have any educators or former educators in the house? Please stand. Please stand. Let's give them their props, okay? And I know Dr. Hinojosa is back there. Stand up again, Dr. Hinojosa. Stand up. Yes, yes. I never hesitate to recognize educators, and I call them the other Homeland Security because those 4 educators literally saved my life. Yes.
Amazing. So let's talk about your professional career. 36 years at AT&T that spanned 3 states.
13,088 days. I'm a numbers person. It's that math book.
I can tell. That's the math book. And 14 different roles.
Yes.
Can you tell us about how you successfully grew from a local supervisor to a senior vice president and then an officer of the company?
Yes, I loved my days at AT&T. I remember when I was recruited in college, and the recruiters came. I ended up with 13 job offers, and I had 2 criteria. I said, now this is at 21 years old, okay? I said, I want the job that pays me the most money, because of course, I was trying to help my mom get out of the projects. She didn't need any help. She had like 3 and 4 jobs, but I just wanted to do something. And then I wanted a job where I could be a supervisor. And so I ended up accepting AT&T because of their fast track management program. And I actually started out supervising, this is way in the day, so most people don't even know this. I actually started out supervising long distance operators. So literally, we're back in the day when you didn't even press O, you dialed O back in the day. And the people on the other end, the operators, they actually reported to me. I was 21 years old, didn't know a thing really about working. It's the first job I ever had. And between the union and these seasoned operators, they taught me just about everything I know today about leadership. And so I have this leadership philosophy, and I know we'll talk about it probably a little later, really that is centered around people. And so they taught me that if I really listen to the people, learn from the people, and love the people, my 3 L's, that I'd be successful. And so that's what I practiced. I ended up doing very well in that job. It was a big risk. We did all kind of things because I was 21 years old, and they had this list of things that they wanted their new boss to do, and all these policies and practices they wanted changed. They knew I didn't know better, and I didn't. And so I worked with them, and I'd go to my boss, and I'd say, let's take a risk. The operators want to do blah, 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 blah. And my boss would say, no, we can't do that. And I'm like, just try it. Let's just try it. And I worked the night shift because I'm a night person, right? I mean, I know I'm at the breakfast, but I'm really a night person. And so we tried all kind of stuff, and we ended up having some of the best results across the company. And it was because I listened to these people, I learned from them, and I truly, truly just fell in love with them. And so then I was offered my boss's job because our results were so good, and I turned down a promotion. And I actually turned down 4 promotions in my career because at this point, you know, I'm like 22, 23 years old, and I want to learn the business because at this point I realized I'm in a technical business, I have a business background, I started out as an engineering major, so I'm like, I want to go and learn the business. And so I ended up taking a job in our network engineering department, and it was quite insightful. I learned the whole business. I had a boss who told me one time, he asked me, he goes, Cindy, you turned down 1 promotion, okay? What are you gonna do next? And Chris, I was sitting there looking at all my little demand and capacity charts, like I'm into all my stuff. And I looked at him and I said something that was so crazy. So this is for some of our younger people in their career. Okay, so I'll tell you my mistakes. And I said, Mr. McBride, your job, my job is to do my current job and to make sure, that I'm doing all this right. And your job is to think about my career and what my next job is. And he looked at me and he said, that was back when they called me Cindy. You know, I had to stop that.
Yes.
But he said, because I mean, I'm not Cindy. I've never been Cindy, but he was calling me Cindy. But you know, I let them get away with whatever they wanted to, right? So he said, Cindy, follow me, follow me. And so I went to his office and he said, that's not the right answer. You have to take some control over your career. You just can't keep turning down promotions, and you gotta understand the big company. And Mr. McBride had me in his office for 2 hours. And you know, he's an engineering manager, so he's got all these easels and white papers and all that. And by the time I left his office, I knew just about every department. I had a better understanding. I actually had a 5-year career plan when I walked out of his office. Then he took me back to my desk and he goes, okay, so Cindy, I'm gonna work with you. I'm gonna be right here with you because I actually think you could be an officer in this company one day. And I didn't even know what he was talking about. An officer, I mean, I'm in an all-male engineering department. Nobody looked like me at the top, so I didn't really even embrace what he was saying. But he said, I'm gonna help you, I'm gonna help you. And so he gave me a lot of good advice. And so I try to do that now for our employees because you just don't know what you don't know. But thank goodness he took the time to let me know that I had to take some control of my career. And so I just had all these promotions and I worked in all these different departments. And when things came up, I always said yes, and I was open. And then I got the call to go to move to North Carolina. And so I was open to it. I was actually at a Golden State Warriors basketball game. I mean, I lived in San Francisco, okay? I mean, in the Bay Area, so that was my team then, not now. I'm all go Mavs.
Okay.
I'm all go Mavs.
Okay.
Everybody say go Mavs.
All right, go Mavs.
Okay, I'm all about the Mavs right now, okay? But I wasn't then because I didn't, I lived there. So I was at a game and I got a call, and 25 years into my career. And when I got the call, and I knew we were buying Bell South and Singular, And I didn't take the call at first. It's the holidays, it's my daughter's birthday, we're doing this big charity event, we got all these kids. And then we had some little honeys who were trying to sneak their little backpacks and some stuff into the arena, little bad honeys. And I said, okay, I told my husband, I said, I will take the backpacks back to the car because we didn't even know the kids that, was sneaking stuff in. And so that was the only reason I was outside the arena. And my phone rang and I looked and then it said 210 San Antonio. And that's where we were headquartered before we moved to Dallas. And I said, oh my goodness, 25 years into it, I'm getting the call. And every time we would have a merger, I was actually part of the very first merger when Southwestern Bell bought Pacific Bell. And I said, oh my goodness, I'm getting the call. And so I took the call and they said, hey, Cynt, we need you and Kenny, my husband, and the kids to move to North Carolina. And I'm like, wow. So I go in and my husband, when I got back in the arena, he said, you look like you seen a ghost, like what's going on? I said, we're getting ready to move to North Carolina. And we were both like, okay. We were open, totally open to whatever the company needed me to do. And so I remember being on the plane with my kids, and so my daughter, who was 12 at the time, she says, Mom, where is North Carolina? Yeah. Do you know, do we even know where it is? Yeah. And I said, well, no. So we had to pull out a map. I'd only been there one time for a wedding. So we pulled out a map, and she says, do they have hurricanes in North Carolina? I said, honey, they're going to have 2 just as soon as we get there. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go. So we went in, and we just took the place by storm and had a great time leading the whole operation for AT&T. I learned so much in that job, even more about our business, more about the sales aspect of our business, more about the public policy aspect of our business. And then I got a call at the end of 2012 from our chairman. And this was after my cancer battle and all that. And he said, how old are the kids? He said, every time I turn around, you're adopting another child, because we have 4 adopted kids. And he says, okay, so he went through the ages. And he says, okay, what about Shirley? I said, she's going to be graduated from high school. And he says, okay, this is sounding good. He said, okay, but I hear you just adopted another one. I said, yes. He says, what grade is she in? And then that's when it hit me, because this is the 3rd time they were trying to get me to move to Dallas. I said, she's going to start high school in the fall. He said, you're moving to Dallas. He said, she can start high school in Dallas. And so it worked out great. So we moved here in 2013. And at that time, I had all these businesses, line staff, jobs in our business, line staff, technical. And he said, I need you to come and help lead our HR team. And we just have a whole big transformation we need to do. And I had only worked in HR one time as a recruiter for the network engineering department, because all the departments sent their own recruiters. And so I thought he had gone crazy. I said, because I've never really done that. And it turned out to be great. He put us all in these different jobs. And my job was to help lead an effort to get us to be a great place to work and to get on Fortune's Best Places to Work list. We had never been on it. And right before I left, we made the list, and we were one of only 2 Fortune 50 companies to make that list. Wow. So I rallied a lot of people together, and we did our job. Wow. And so now I'm on that same journey, coincidentally, with these wonderful people at the Mavs. Wonderful. Because that's what it's about.
I'd like to go back to your leadership philosophy a little bit. Listen, learn, love. We have a lot of young people in the room, and
hello, young people.
There's sometimes this myth, right, that you have to be in a leadership position in order to lead. But any words of wisdom you might impart upon this group on how you were able to lead effectively at such a young age as a Black female in an environment that did not look like you, probably wasn't overly welcoming to you? Anything you'd say about that?
No, it wasn't that welcoming to me. And in fact, I'll tell you a real quick story, and then I'll talk to the young people. When I was in my network engineering job, and I remember our very first meeting, and my boss, and I was the only woman in the room, only Black person in the room. My boss's boss actually looked at me and he said, Cindy, can you get us some coffee? Now, what do y'all think I did? 23 years old, I got up and I got that coffee, right? I mean, because it didn't even dawn on me that there was really something wrong with that. Right. I mean, he wasn't nasty about how he said it. He just said, Cindy, can you get the coffee? And I said, okay. So I got coffee for everybody. And so it was one of those like 3-day meetings. So the next day, the meeting started, and I looked over at him. I said, Mr. Atkinson, can you get the coffee? Mm-hmm. And he looked, and he said, I said, I made it yesterday. Today is your day. He got up and he made that coffee.
Yes.
And so sometimes, so that's my message to the young people. Sometimes it's just how you respond.
Right.
And somebody told me a long time ago, one of my mentors, that it's not always what happens to you, it's how you respond to what happens. I believe that we are all leaders. Now, some of us will end up being in leadership positions, but we all have something to lead. I truly believe, I was talking to Michael earlier about purpose, and we were talking about being purpose-driven. I think there is a purpose. Some of us are just meant to lead at very, very young ages. And so if you truly get in touch with what that purpose is, where you're supposed to be leading, really understand the organization, understand the people, understand what drives people, understand what motivates people, truly get in there and love the people. And that's what I mean by love the people. You love that person who gets up out of bed in the morning, that person who gets up with all their dreams, their visions, their baggage, their backgrounds. I mean, people don't always know my background. I mean, there are always triggers and stuff that are working with people. You get up and you love those people, and then those are the people that you lead. And so all the young people, I'm not going to have you stand up, because some people will be standing up who shouldn't be standing up, okay? But you have to know that we are counting on you. I mean, people of my generation, like, we are passing that baton. We are counting on you to truly lead, not just your organization, not just this region, I mean, lead across this country. And so what I love about our generation, you know, I have 4 kids, right? And what I love about them is they grew up with all cultures. They are extremely smart. They are technology savvy, and they are young leaders. Now, they can't really tell me what to do, okay, because I'm the mama, but they are true leaders, and you just have to embrace it. Embrace it. Never think you're too young to lead. I led those group of people at 21 years old, no experience, but I knew that the Lord had given me the heart, the hands, and the head to lead, and I embraced it.
Yes. So you made this comment earlier, but I can't run past it. You were told to be called Cindy or Cynthia. Mm-hmm. How did you stay authentic to yourself and still lead with purpose at AT&T in these days? Okay,
so the backstory on that is I was 40 years old, and I got this call. I just walked in the house, and my boss called me because the company had elected me to be an officer. So the board had elected me to be an officer of the corporation. At this time, I knew what an officer was. Okay, my boss was an officer. And on the other end of the phone, so my husband is kind of like where you are. And so I said, they want me to be an officer? And she said, yes, you're being promoted. And so then she went on to give me a laundry list of things that she wanted me to change. She says, now here's what I think you need to do. I want you to change your hairstyle. She said, I left a magazine, I'm not making this up, right? She said, I left a magazine on your desk, and there are these black people, I think it was Black Enterprise or something. She says, she said, there's these black people on the magazine cover, they're all in white, and the women have short haircuts, and so she's just going on, and I'm like, okay. And she said, and I think if you can get some white, that'll be great. She says, and then there's a company called St. John. Okay, now I took that advice though. She said, she said, there's a company called St. John, and she says, and then I want you to change your name. You can't be Cynt, because nobody knows what a Cynt is. You have to be Cindy or Cynthia. I've been Cynt my whole life. I mean, I'm heaven sent. She didn't realize that though, right? I've been Cynt my whole life. And so then at this point, the conversation is starting to shift. She said, and then I don't want you to laugh so much. You're too happy. She said, you got to just calm down a little bit. And at this point, I mean, I just wanted to I just wanted to yell out, but I didn't. I didn't. So I said, okay. And so my husband is hearing this, right? And so I said, and you want me to get my hair cut? And so he can tell, I mean, he's known me for a long time, right? He can tell that I'm getting ready to just, it's getting ready to shift, right? And so I said, well, I'm not going to get my hair cut. I said, you want me to be an officer, but you want to give me a laundry list. She said, oh, yes, and you can't have people coming by your office all the time because they're coming by there all the time. People are in there too much, blah, 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 blah. You're not going to be able to be in touch with the people. She says, and then, so this is where the straw broke the camel's back. She says, and you use words like blessed. You can't say blessed. You have to say lucky. I said, well, what if I don't believe I'm lucky, that I truly believe that I'm blessed, and I know I'm blessed? Because at this point, the Pentecostal in me is about to come out. Like we're about to have a revival on the phone, boss. Okay? So I went through the list, and my husband is in the background. He's like, I got a barber. You can get the haircut, because all he can think about is, are you really getting ready to turn down an officer promotion? And I said, you know what, boss? I said, I am so honored by the fact that this company wants me to be an officer. I mean, when I think about where I came from, this is huge. And at that time, we only had 2 other black female officers. I said, but you are asking me to fundamentally change who I am. Haircut is one thing. I'll take coaching about my job and all that. But when you start telling me to change my name, and you're telling me I can't say blessed, and I can't stand on the foundation that I was raised on, this is not the job for me. I said, so I'm going to turn this promotion down. My husband is just like, oh God, I can't believe this, right? And so I literally have to turn away from him. I'm like, okay. I turned it down. And she was so happy because she didn't think I was sophisticated enough for it anyway. And so I said, but boss, here's what I'm concerned about. Like, I'm a vice president. I'm doing great. I'm taking care of my family. I have a lot of people, extended family, depending on me. I need you to help me turn this job down, but also figure out how to keep this job, because I didn't know if they were going to be upset or whatever. And she says, oh, no, we're okay. I can turn it down. I think you're making the right decision. I mean, because you're just not going to change who I am. So hung up. I told my husband. He just had to get some aspirin, and so he was just a mess, okay? And then the phone rang about 5 minutes later, and it was the chairman of our company at the time, Ed Whitaker. And he said, Cynt, and he put an emphasis on the T. He said, girl, I just heard what happened. He said, let's do this all over again. He said, I know exactly who you are, and that's why we're making you an officer of the company. He said, I've been in your office. I see that big sign that you have in your office that say, Lord, there's nothing that can happen today that you and I can't handle. He said, and the reason I remember that, because he said, I put that in my mind. I put that in my memory bank when I left San Francisco the last time. He said, I said, oh, that's why good stuff is happening in there. He said, you don't have to say a thing. You can say blessed. I mean, apparently she told him about the whole conversation. He said, I'm sorry that happened. He said, so I am calling to personally ask you to be an officer of this company. And on my first officers conference, on the first day when I walked in, Ed Whitaker was standing at the door to greet me. And he said, welcome, girl. He said, this is a long way from the Easter Hill Public Housing Projects. He said, you are one of 110. Yeah. You go in there and be sent.
Yes.
So I've been sent ever since then.
Love it.
And you know why I love that story? It has nothing to do with me taking a stand, because we take stands. I mean, everybody does that. I love that story because of Ed Whitaker. Just the power of a leader, the power of his words. He literally set me loose that day to be who I am. So I talk all this about authenticity, and at the Mavs, our values spell crafts. Character, and I have to end on a character story, but character, respect, authenticity, fairness, teamwork, and safety, both physical and emotional safety. So authenticity is big for us, but that's where I got it from. Ed Whitaker set me loose to be sent. And so that's my mission every day, is to have my team members be who they are and be themselves, and not have anybody try to make them be somebody else. It's too exhausting being somebody else. I just want that free person who walks in the door.
Amazing. All right, so I see we only have 5 minutes, and then we maybe...
No, we want to take like an
I know.
hour. No, I'm just kidding.
I know.
I'm just kidding.
We're having a good time here. But let's move on to the Dallas Mavericks. So
okay, I love the Dallas Mavericks. Go Mavs.
You have to tell us.
October 24th, season opener. Y'all got to be there. Who's going to be there? Who is going to be there?
We'll be there. Absolutely, we'll be there.
Okay, so Theo is our Chief Revenue Officer. A lot of hands did not go up. You got to get busy as soon as this is over, Theo. We got to get these people in the door. We're going to have a season. We are the Western Conference champions. Y'all know that? The Western Conference champions. We are not playing at the Dallas Mavericks. I love that job. Oh, my gosh.
So you have to tell us, what questions did you ask yourself before you said yes? And did you really not know who Mark Cuban was?
Okay, you had to bring that up. I'm so embarrassed by that. Yes. So my text, okay, so I'll tell you a story real quick. So I'm on the call. I had retired, okay? Started my own consulting company. I'm on the phone with my clients. And I had, I was kind of like, sad that morning because it was February 21st, 2018. And so it was the day these teenagers were protesting in Parkland, Florida because of gun violence and the stuff that happened at their school. And it was also the day the Reverend Dr. Billy Graham had passed away. And so I'm looking at these teenagers and this 99-year-old. I found myself smack dab in the middle age-wise, and they're having an impact on me, right? So I wrote this blog and posted it called Impact, just like what's the next phase of my life. So I post my blog, I get on the phone with my clients, and my cell phone starts going off. And I just keep my phone. You guys keep your phones? And I always tell people, especially if you're with me, turn those phones on, text, talk, and everything, because chances are that might be an AT&T phone, and that's my pension, okay? so I like people using their phones, okay? So I have my phone, and I am just talking on my call, and I gave my husband the phone, and I said, one of the kids need money, take care of it. Because that's the only time my phone would blow up like that, right? And that's how I had it with my kids. I'm like, don't try to track me down, I'm busy. And two of them are in college. If you need something, if you need $225, just put 225. I got you, okay? I do the quick transfer while I'm in the meeting. Like, don't try to track me down, okay? I'm busy. So my phone's blowing up, and I said, one of the kids need money, because that's the only reason they would do that. Handle it. So my husband comes back a minute or two later, because he's reading the messages, and he said, this dude doesn't need any money. He said, is Mark Cuban trying to reach you? I said, who is that? I truly did not know who Mark Cuban was. And people laugh. I said, well, he didn't know me either. Okay, so I didn't know him, he didn't know me. He heard my name, okay, he called me. And so he tried to tell me who he is. And he said he's having some kind of crisis, something's going on at the Mavs in Dallas. Well, I wasn't watching local news. I mean, I'm watching literally this story about these teenagers and Reverend Dr. Billy Graham. So I didn't call him. I told my husband, I said, I'm not calling him. I said, I don't know what is happening. I don't know him. I don't know what kind of crisis he's having. That has nothing to do with me. And I'll just pray for these people. But I'm not calling him. Okay, I said, I'm not, but I didn't know him, right? I didn't know. I mean, I just truly didn't know him. And so then he had my son, who's in LA, call me. He's mama's boy, so I listened to him. So he said, Mom, Dad just told me what's going on. You probably need to get off the phone with your clients. Tell them you have to get back to them. He said, I'm telling you what is going on at the Dallas Mavericks. If Mark Cuban is trying to reach you, you need to just call him back and talk to him. I said, okay. So when I called him, so I read the messages, I called him back, and so he wanted me to meet him at 2 o'clock. I said, I can't meet you at 2 o'clock because I have a mammogram scheduled. And I'm a colon cancer survivor, and I know what happens when you don't take care of your medical business, because that's how I ended up with stage 3C colon cancer with 6 months to live back in 2010, because I didn't have a colonoscopy when I should have. And so I said, so no, I'm not gonna miss my mammogram. He said, well, do you want me to come out there? No, I don't need you to come to the mammogram, okay? And he wasn't trying to come to the mammogram. He was just trying to make it convenient for me. He said, I'll meet you wherever you want to meet me. So I ended up going to see him 4 o'clock. But when I came back from the mammogram, my husband was sitting there in Mavs colors from head to toe. That boy even had on blue, gray, and black socks, right? And I said, what are you doing? He said, I looked up all the colors. He said, don't go in there with the wrong shade of blue, because I went to Berkeley, was worried. He said, don't go in there with the wrong shade of blue at all. Here's exactly. So he and my son, they're on FaceTime. They are in my closet, making sure I picked the right shade of blue, all that, right? So I go to see him, and the rest is history. It was a beautiful, beautiful, well, we walked in and my husband said, Ken Marshall. I'm like, I'm here to see Mark Cuban, okay? Yes. And so I hugged the receptionist. I talked to Mark for 55 minutes. because I said I would give him an hour. I talked to him for 55 minutes. He was so sincere about truly, and these are my words, wanting to create a great place to work for his employees, because most of them were just working hard every day. Wonderful people. I've just never met such a wonderful group of people, and they needed true leadership. A crisis had occurred, and he stepped up as a leader and said, let me do what I need to do to try to help get these people through this situation and provide some ongoing leadership. I told him I was going to go home and pray about it, and as I was leaving his office, 2 women stopped me and told me their stories. And one of them said, Mark told us a little bit about you this morning. We think you could really have an impact on us. And she used that word impact 3 times. Yes. And so I just got chills. And so I went home, prayed about it. I came back the next day and ended up in the conference room with employees for 3 hours. Mark didn't even know I was in the building. And so he thought I didn't come back. And someone asked him what was wrong, and he said, the person who was here yesterday, Cynt. He said, I just think she would be good for us, but she didn't come back. They said, she's been in the conference room for 3 hours. He came busted in that conference room. He said, well, you said you were going to go home and pray about it. I said, I did. He said, I guess the Lord said yes. I said, I guess so. And so we've been together ever since. And so we've been on this mission with these amazing, amazing people. And now we have a new ownership, and we're taking the mission even higher, to serve our fans, to take care of our employees, to really serve the community. So we're about what happens on the court, but we are also about what happens off the court. We have probably 10 to 14 million fans who will be able to watch our games now because of our new announcement that we just made in our partnership with Tegna and WFAA. Aaron Feingold White right here is leading our whole broadcasting strategy. We have Mark Bokenheit here, who is leading our whole renovation strategy, the stuff we are getting ready to do at the arena, and the investment we are making in Dallas with the new ownership is absolutely incredible. So it is a great time to be an employee of the Mavs, but also to be a fan. And season ticket holders we have in here, thank you for your loyalty. When Theo gets done, we're going to have more season ticket holders.
That's right.
And so we're having fun, and we're doing great things. And yes, we're recognized a lot for our culture and our results and the things that we're doing. We are truly the best team in the NBA. But it has to do with all the 220 people who work in that building. And I'm just blessed to be their leader. And character is a big thing for us. And so he's making us stop. So I want to talk character.
I have one more question, and then we'll do one for Q&A.
And then I'm going to tell a character story. I'm not letting y'all leave here without my character story.
All right, so you talk a lot about the importance of knowing what are rubber balls and what are crystal balls.
Yes.
What is your recommendation to people leaders here on how to help their teams understand what is rubber and what is crystal?
Okay, so I set my priorities, and so I get this question a lot about how do you set your priorities, how do you balance and all that. I don't believe in balance, okay, because that means like my family is going to be down here. That's never going to happen, okay? So I just try to integrate all aspects of my life, personal, professional, even the things on my professional plate. How do you set priorities? And I heard this one time, so I'm going to demonstrate it. Okay, so this is a crystal ball. If I drop it, which I did on stage one time, if I drop it, it shatters, it never comes back. You can't bring the pieces back. And so there are some things in our lives that are truly crystal. You cannot miss them. For me, one time, it was my son's first high school swim meet. And I was representing AT&T in Washington, D.C., and they said, we want you here all week. We know it's a heavy lift, but you know a lot of the policymakers, we need you to help us. And a lot of things going on, we need you to explain the business to them. I said, I can be there all week except for Wednesday afternoon, because it's my son's first high school swim meet in a new school. And so when I got to DC, they gave us a schedule. The most important policymakers, all the committee heads, were scheduled for Wednesday afternoon. And I said, I can't be there. And they said, well, yeah, we heard it's a swim meet. I said, no, it's crystal. It's not the second one, it's not the third one, it's not swim practice. It's his first high school swim meet at a new school. I am convinced to this day that that boy won that individual medley race, because when he looked up in the stands for his sister and his dad, he also saw his mama, because I was there. That was crystal to me. And then there are just times where I can't show up to things, or even at work, I can't show up to some things. And so then those are rubber balls. And the rubber balls, and I keep a crystal ball and 3 rubber balls at on my desk in my office and on my desk at home. Because rubber bounces back, or it bounces away. Somebody will take it, and you handle that. Okay, that's how I delegate, okay?
Love it.
Okay, and that went, let it go, Aaron, let it go. Sometimes it's just out there, let it go, because maybe you didn't have to do it in the first place, right? And sometimes, throw it back to me, Aaron. And then sometime it comes back. Ooh, that's that one of those Kyrie moves. Okay. Sometimes it comes back and you'll catch it the day you can handle it. So think about what's crystal in your life, personal and professional. You cannot drop it. Most things are rubber. Very few things really are crystal. We act like they're crystal. We think it's the end of the world. Most things are rubber. Either somebody else can do it, or it doesn't need to get done in the first place, or it'll bounce back to you later. Very few things are crystal. Those are the things you cannot drop. So that is for you. I brought you your own crystal ball and 3 rubber balls.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we have a few minutes. We'll open it up for maybe 1 or 2 questions from the audience. I think we have some of the truck staff willing to run mics. Any questions for Cynt this morning?
I think I hear somebody saying, how can I buy season tickets? Theo is going to be right over there. Where's Kyle Tapley? We got new sponsors. Somebody's with Stand Up Kyle Tapley. You want to be a sponsor for the Mavs? You talk to Kyle Tapley. Okay.
Yeah.
Where are they? Y'all got questions for me? The people are mesmerized.
They are mesmerized.
Can you tell us your character story?
Yes, please.
There you go.
See, that wasn't, okay. You might get a couple of free tickets, okay? Theo, give this man some tickets. Okay, so at the Mavs, character is our first value. It just undergirds everything we do. It's about integrity. And the story that I told my team right before our press conference in February 2018, when I rolled out our values, is a story I want to tell you. And it's a story about character. All of our kids are adopted. And so when we adopted our first son, Kenneth Anthony, we adopted him at 2.5 years old. He had been abandoned, abused, neglected, left in an old hotel room for 2 months because his mom was on drugs and taken away to jail, and his 9-year-old brother was there to take care of him until the police actually told somebody that these 2 boys had been left behind when their mother was taken to jail. And so he was in bad shape when we met him, but my husband looked at him and he said, all he needs is love and a haircut. Like, we got him, okay? And so loved up on that little honey. When he's about 4 years old, 3.5, 4 years old, he's at daycare. And so they decided, and he went to daycare immediately, because when they asked me the age of adoption, we had 4 second trimester miscarriages and a daughter who died at 6 months old. So by the time we adopted him, and they asked us the age, I said, 2 years old, because I wanted him to be able to go into daycare and all that, because I'm a working woman. I'm like, if I can just get him right in daycare. I was naive enough to think that he was going to just be on my schedule. Okay? I know better now. Kids, they just, they got their own schedules. So he's at daycare, and so he comes home one day and he says, there's a baby picture contest, and everybody has to bring their baby picture. Well, he doesn't have a baby picture. When we got him, he was 2.5 years old. And they had just taken a picture of him just to, introduce him to us. And so I told my husband, I said, I guess he's going to have to take that picture. And you could even tell in that picture he looked sad. I mean, he looked sad. His hands were puffy. You could tell he had been abused. And so I said, but he's going to have to take that picture. That's the first picture we have. And so I'm going through the house one day, and my husband's at the table with him. And he said, and so I look over, and there's a baby picture. And they're practicing this whole script about how he's going to present this picture as his baby picture. And I look over, I said, what are you doing? And he said, we're practicing for the contest. And I said, well, that's not his picture, though. That's your nephew, Jalen. That's his baby picture. Like, what we doing here, dude? I said, that's his baby picture. And he said, I'm not going to have him be the only one in there without a baby picture. He's already gone through a lot. He said, my job is to give him self-esteem as his dad and give him confidence. And oh, he's just talking crazy. I said, but that's a lie. That's not his picture. He said, we're fine. We're fine. We got this. So I said, okay. So I go off to work the next day, and I'm like, this is not right. You know, you try not to argue in front of the kids, right? Mm-hmm. But I had all this like head action going on, like, that's not right, okay? Yeah. And so, but I let it go. Finally, I said, you know what? He wouldn't be the only one in there without the baby picture, so, okay. So he goes to school. I come home that evening, and the trophy from the baby picture contest is as big as the kid and is on my kitchen table.
We'll love it. Yes.
Now, at this point, I'm sick, okay? Because the whole thing is a sham, right? I'm like,
right,
oh,
right,
God.
Right.
I said, I cannot believe this, right? And so I walk in, and he is cheesy. He's like, Mom, I won the contest. I said, I can see. And so he's got the big trophy. My husband is reared back. He's just smiling, because all he's doing is looking at the trophy, right? And he says, you want to know what happened? You want to know what I said? You want to know my speech? And I'm thinking, no. The whole thing is a sham, right? And my husband said, yeah. And he hadn't heard it either. He said, yeah, tell us what you did. Tell us what you did. My boy said, I got up and I held up the picture and I said, hi, everybody. This is my cousin Jalen. He said, it's my cousin Jalen because I'm adopted and I was born in a bathtub, and then like I was left because my mom went to jail, and then the police came and got me, and then I got adopted, and like I have like 1,000 bajillion cousins, and this is my cousin Jalen. He said, Mommy, everybody started crying and they gave me the trophy. So look, so the moral of that story is, at 3.5, 4 years old, with his parents' permission to lie, and not just his parents' permission to lie, but gave him the story, gave him the picture, all the props and tools to go with it. We're the most authoritative people in his life. And we made it okay to lie and set him up to do it. And he went to that daycare and told the truth. Why did he do that? Because at 3.5, 4 years old, it is in us to tell the truth. Integrity is just deep. And so, what I'm asking all of us to do is operate with the integrity that we had at 3.5, 4 years old. Even when it's easy, when people want us to lie, when their values don't necessarily align to ours and we know it's wrong, just think about him holding up that picture, saying, hi, everybody, it's my cousin Jalen, even when his parents told him to do something else. That's my character story.
Well, Cynt, thank you for your time this morning. I'm sure all of us will leave here with more wisdom and just purpose and love in our hearts. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cynt Marshall.
Thank you. Thank you. That was so fun. Oh, so fun. Thank you.